The British Empire of the 19th century was the largest empire the world had ever known. A quarter of the globe painted red on the map. But an empire that vast is not held together by armies alone. It's held together by an idea. And the men who ran that empire, the graduates of its elite schools, had a very particular, very British idea. They believed that the human instinct for conflict, for tribalism, for violence, for war, was not something that could be eradicated. But it could be managed, it could be channeled, it could be diverted into a safe, controlled, and symbolic arena. They called it rational recreation. At home, it was a tool for social control, a way to keep the restless masses disciplined and distracted, too invested in the fortunes of their local team to burn down the factory. Abroad in the colonies, it was a civilizing mission, a way to teach the natives the English values of fair play and respect for the rules. A form of cultural pacification where the battlefield was replaced by the playing field. The game, in essence, became a substitute for war, a pressure valve for the entire empire, designed to contain and manage conflict before it could ever turn real. And for a time, the system worked. The colonials learnt the rules, they played the game, but the architects of this grand idea made one fatal miscalculation. They never considered what would happen if the colonial, the prisoner's son, the one who was only ever meant to be a student of the game, started to win. What happens when the master gets beaten in his own house? He's cremated, condemned for eternity to a tiny little urn. Rational recreation becomes an irrational obsession to fight for ownership of that urn every 2 years, forever.
When we beat Australia, it is a joy that you cannot possibly transmit or communicate to others. It is so intense, it radiates your whole being, and you skip on air for weeks. When we lose to Australia, oh God, we kind of laugh.
Vote him! How about that?
Talk of a political dirt unit.
Is typical of this job.
Ladies and gentlemen, dogs of all breeds, you're listening to the Dirt Unit. My name is Brendan, and this man sitting across from me here is...
I'm Daniel. Hello, everyone.
To meet
Hello,
you, Daniel.
Brendan. Hi, pleasure.
We're not continuing with the Epstein stuff today. 3 solid months of Jeffrey Epstein is enough for me. I need a break.
I think we could use a little pause. I think that's wise.
And also, there's a lot coming out about him at the moment. And
are people still talking about this Jeffrey Epstein?
Yes, they
creep?
are, Donald. And so I thought it was probably good to, and a lot of the stuff coming out sort of covers the period we're up to onwards. So I thought it was probably good to just let as much more come out as possible before we launch back into it and have a little breather. So we're going to get into some I don't know if you'd call it like heavy shit, but it was more very deep dives into the good book shortly. But I thought before we do that, let's have a little lighthearted breather, and I wanted to put into words a concept that I've been thinking of for a long time, and that is the ashes.
Okay.
My thesis for this podcast is that the ashes is the single reason why Australia has never had a war or fought for their independence from Britain.
That's the tie, is it? That's what's keeping us. That's our colonial.
This is my thesis, and we're going to go through the entire ashes story, and I'm going to point out a few bits and a few reasons why I think that, and we'll see what we think from the end, I suppose.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. So I've been was a bit of a struggle to write the preamble here and sort of put into words the essence of the relationship between Australia and the UK.
In general terms?
In general terms.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to put into words.
It is funny. You're right. It's weird.
We're not the favourites, But like, and then they don't look up like
their children.
well, yeah. I mean, we are their children. We're not the favorites. We're definitely not the favorites. They don't look up to us.
Who are the favorites? Do you reckon?
Well, the favorites is probably the wayward son.
Definitely the Indians.
I think the favorites is the wayward son of America, and maybe maybe the Canadians.
I almost forgot about them.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
are they still part of the family? Do they count?
Well, I mean, I'm just going off Cecil Rhodes. They seem to really, really have a soft spot for America.
Yeah, but I mean, now culturally speaking,
yeah, totally. Well,
okay. They still view America as one of their progeny.
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest ally, you know, even though they're not part of the family technically. But like they love to bang on about how much they hate us, but you also can't keep them away from us.
No.
So I think I've landed on the perfect analogy to explain this strange relationship to those that aren't familiar. If you really want to understand the Anglo-Australian relationship, it's best to think of it like the royal family. England is the firm, the crown, the institution, the dutiful heir, the embodiment of tradition and the established order. And Australia is the spare. We're the second son. We're more of a Prince Harry than a Prince Andrew, let's be clear. Prince Andrew, probably Canada, figuratively speaking, obviously. We're both born from the same family. We share the same blood. But we were destined for a more rebellious path. We resent the stuffy traditions of the palace. We want to prove that we can make it on our own, utilising the association with the motherland, but fiercely protective of the unique mongrel culture we've built for ourselves. And yet, for all the rebellion, we can't ever fully escape the fact that we're family. Now, I mean, it's quite literal for me, because I'm married to an English woman and I have spent a few years living in London. I've seen this relationship firsthand. You know, over there, you're not treated as a local, but you're not treated as a foreigner either. You're like this weird, loud, sunburnt cousin from some dodgy borough way south of London. Like, I've had English co-workers whinge to me about immigrants, you know, which is like bizarre because, like, on some level, they don't actually register you as an immigrant. You're just some cousin who's come to stay for a bit. And it works the other way around here too. This complex, intimate, and often infuriating sibling rivalry finds its purest expression every 2 years in one place. The Ashes.
The Ashes.
The Ashes is international sport's first and oldest rivalry.
Ooh.
It's a 5-test series of cricket where magic happens.
How old are we talking?
We're talking, it'll be 150 years in 2027.
So when did it start?
1877.
There you go.
Yeah.
Older than most countries. Well, many countries. So countries.
Older than some countries. Well, it's older than Australia. It's
true.
It's a battle for national pride, fought over a tiny little terracotta urn. And when it comes down to it, the Ashes is Test cricket. There's not only the fact that, like, initially Test cricket was the Ashes, but to this day, it still is the thing that every other Test revolves around, as much as India wishes that wasn't the case. But they know it, we know it, everyone knows it. Every other Test played by Australia or England is just preparation for the Ashes. With our eye on that prize every 2 years, we've generally managed to knock down every other team that's in the way. Now, I know not everyone out there is fans of cricket. I don't know if are you a fan of cricket? I don't think you are.
Look, I enjoy the culture. I enjoy the place that it has in our culture, and I like hitting the nets every once in a while. And it's nice to watch. It's it's not something that's been a passion of mine, but I appreciate it for many reasons. Yeah, which I'm happy to go into over the course of this podcast.
Yes. Well, as do I. Well, that's good. But like, you know,
what about you? You're a cricket fan?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
I wouldn't call myself I'm not like I wouldn't, like, I'm not like I'm not like a cricket nuffy. Like, I'm not like, I couldn't name, like, you know, the fucking
obsession.
top scorer of every batter that's ever batted for Australia. But I do, it's, of all the sports, it's the sport that I watch.
Oh, okay.
You know, where,
Did
like,
you play?
I'll watch AFL, you know, when my team's doing good, which isn't very often.
But cricket, I will always. I mean, it helps. Test cricket, especially. I'm not too into like the T20s or the one-day games, but like Test cricket.
That was going to be my question. So it's Test cricket specifically that you watch, not just the game. You won't watch. I don't know, whatever they're doing in India these days.
No, I won't watch any of the domestic leagues, like the IPL or even like the Big Bash League here. I'm not into it.
So it's the glory, the circumstance, the
Test cricket's so much better because it's it goes forever, which is awesome. You just have it on.
Yeah, that's
for 5
kind of
days
a part
straight.
of it, isn't it?
It's great.
But when you say Test cricket, do you mean any Test or specifically the Ashes?
Any Test.
Any Test?
Yeah, I'll watch like international, like not like I won't watch like team that isn't Australia play each other, but I'll watch like when Australia plays in like India and shit. I'll watch the games.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about what it is, isn't it? And I think the time span is a big part of it. It's the pace, right?
Yeah, it's you know, as I'll get into, it's like yeah, it's like a combination of like chess and baseball, you know.
Yeah, kind of.
It's like
did you ever play much cricket?
Yeah, I played cricket for years. Right. I was never any good at it. So some people might have no idea about the game out there, but worry not, because this episode, well, although this episode is very much just an excuse for me to nerd out on cricket for a bit, the Ashes is more than a game. This is the story of Australia. This is a story that is older than the country of Australia. A story of bitter colonial rivals joining together under the banner of a continent behind a single cause. And while every other major colony in the British Empire fought with weapons as the resentment against their imperial masters boiled over, Australia did not, even though we had many reasons to, thanks to one tiny little urn. It's a ritualized, sublimated form of warfare. It's the pressure valve that's allowed a century and a half of colonial resentment, sibling rivalry, and feelings of betrayal to be channeled into a safe, symbolic arena. It's the designated battlefield for our entire long psychological family drama, built on the convict stain, the condescension, and the betrayal at Gallipoli. Now, the first and most obvious counter-argument to this is, if cricket prevents war, then why did all the other cricketing nations have wars? And that's a fair question, with a few answers. The simple answer is this. No other team could beat England at cricket. This meant that their whole cricketing relationship with England was fundamentally different. It couldn't serve the same pressure valve function. So let's look
This game sucks.
Yeah, let's look at the exhibits. Exhibit A, India. India had a massive bloody war of independence from the East India Company in 1857. But at that point, cricket was a tool of the colonial masters, played by the elite. Nobody could beat them. The power dynamic was totally one-sided and couldn't release any pressure. They weren't even allowed to play Test cricket until 1932. And their first win against England wasn't until 1952, 5 years after political independence.
That would have been a good game. Sorry.
Yeah.
First one.
Yeah.
Oh, the poor Brits.
Well, it's yeah. Well, they all, like South Africa fought the Boer Wars against the British Empire. And they didn't beat England in a test until 1906, which is 4 years after the war was over.
Right. I see where you're going with this.
West Indies, bit more complex picture of like slave revolts and a long political journey to independence for each island individually. But like the others, they could not beat England at cricket. Their legendary, terrifying team of the 80s was a powerful statement of post-colonial expression for the West Indies, but it was a tool for asserting pride after freedom was won, not a valve to release pressure before it.
Right.
Exhibit D is Canada. Let's face it, Canada was never going to be a cricketing nation. Although they were the part of the first ever international game of cricket versus the USA. But you can barely even play cricket in Canada. And once the US decided that cricket was too British and basically just mandated baseball, that was it for Canada and cricket. Canada had armed uprisings in 1837. And again, though, before that, they couldn't beat England at cricket. But after that, the sport just died. It never became the central focus of their national identity at all. That would be ice hockey.
Did you say the first international game of cricket was Canada?
The first international game of cricket was Canada versus the USA.
Huh. When was that?
It was like 1860 something.
There you go.
And the final exhibit, New Zealand. What's their excuse? They never fought a war of independence, but also they don't have an Ashes level rivalry of against the UK. Why? Because they were never prisoners.
Like a real country.
It's because they are not a real country. New Zealand was founded as a respectable free colony. They never had this deep-seated convict resentment, and their defining military conflict was against the Maori, and that shaped their identity. And then when it came to sport, they decided their aggression was probably best placed somewhere where they could actually compete, rugby. And their great rivalry was never Britain, it was Australia. And
shoulder some cunts.
Yeah.
Hey, bro, I'm going to fucking shoulder some
exactly. They didn't need the Ashes as a pressure valve because they didn't have the same pressure.
Okay.
Why was cricket so important to the English? To the English gentlemen of the 19th century, cricket was not just a game, it was a mirror of the class system. The whole thing was built on a fundamental divide, the gentlemen and the players. The gentlemen were the amateurs. They were the aristocrats, the wealthy sons of privilege. They went to the elite schools like Eton and Harrow. They weren't paid to play. They played for honour and the spirit of the game, but they controlled everything, the clubs, the rules, the money. They were the officers, the nabobs of cricket, if you will.
Nabob? Wait, I know that.
They're the officers of the East India Company.
That's right, yeah.
The players were the professionals. They were the working class, the miners, the farmers, the factory hands. They were the hired help. They were professionals who actually had to be good at the game to earn a living. They were the enlisted men. And this division was built into the fabric of the game. At grounds like Lord's, the gentlemen and the players had separate change rooms and they entered the field from separate gates. The gentlemen were referred to by their initials, like Dr. W.G. Grace, and the players were referred to only by their surnames, like Shaw or Morley. And for the English establishment, cricket was a tool for moral instruction. It was used to teach the lower classes how to play fair, in inverted commas, and more importantly, know their place.
But they're on the same team, these classes?
Yeah. Yeah, but like they were treated differently.
GWs and your Shaws and whatnot?
Yeah. They were hired. They were basically hired by the aristocrats of the team to be good players, you know.
Ooh, this Johnny boy is
my batsman.
He swings a bat very well.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
okay.
It was a way to reinforce the class structure and to export English values to the colonies. And they imposed those English values, for the most part, by beating them at cricket. Now, we touched on this a little bit. But the other thing to note for the uninitiated is that Test cricket is not just played with the bat and ball. It's a psychological game. It's the art of psychological disintegration. And its primary weapon is the sledge. The sledging, it's not just random abuse. It's the art of targeted, personal, witty insult, delivered at the perfect moment to maximize pressure. The goal is to break a man's concentration, plant the seeds of doubt, or just make him so angry that he makes a mistake. And while all teams do it, sledging is widely seen as an Australian specialty. I mean, we started it and we perfected it. And it's a perfect weapon for the spare. It's an irreverent, it's anti-authoritarian, and it's designed to puncture the stuffy, self-important pomposity of the English gentleman. It's our way of saying your fancy school and your title don't mean shit out of you. But if sledging is the verbal assault, the other side of this is gamesmanship, the dark arts, pushing the law to its breaking point to gain an ungentlemanly advantage. And the undisputed master of these dark arts are the English. Embodied by the biggest gamesman of all time, the man that the English held up as the ideal of fair play, Dr. W.G. Grace. The man was a notorious cheat, and this is the point his cheating exposes. The entire English moral superiority is a complete and utter sham. It is, unfortunately, perfectly aligned with the British ideals the game was used to teach. Do as I say, not as I do. The stories about W.G. Grace are pretty funny. He was notorious for refusing to walk when he was clearly out. The most famous story is when he was clean bowled and he just turns around and picks up the bails, puts them back on the stumps, and informs the umpire, "'Twas the wind that took the bails, good sir." Another
Who
story.
is this guy? He's just a player,
He's a gentleman.
a gentleman player.
Yeah.
From when?
He's a batter from the mid 1800s, mid to late 1800s. Another story has him again clean bowled, again just turning around, putting the bails back on the stumps, and telling the umpire, "They're here to watch me bat, not you, umpire." He didn't just play the game. He
Trumpian, that is. That's fantastic.
He manipulated the game. He established a tradition right at the heart of the English establishment that the rules were for the little people. And this is important context. The spirit of the game, the English like to bang on about, was a hustle. And his founding father was the master of that hustle. Now, the first ever cricket tour of Australia wasn't an official England team. Like most cricket at the time, it was a private professional venture. In 1861, a catering company called Spears and Pond sponsored a team of English professionals to tour Australia. It was like a purely financial deal. It wasn't even like England. It was just like a Spears and Pond's professional 11 or some shit like that. You know, it was just a cash grab, but it was a huge success, and it showed that there was like a hunger in Australia for high-level cricket in the colonies. But the first Australian team to ever tour England in 1968 is one of the most interesting, important, and tragic stories in our sporting history. The team that first went to England, they weren't the sons of convicts. They were way more Australian than that. It was a team of Aboriginal stockmen, mostly from Western Victoria. And they were put together by an ex-English professional cricketer named Charles Lawrence. He had a farm out in Western Victoria, and he taught a bunch of Aboriginals working on his farm how to play cricket in their spare time. And he was amazed at their incredible natural talent. So he started showing them off around town, and the local publican got wind of these guys, and he had an idea. He said, "We need to get these guys to the motherland."
Yes.
Naturally, it was denied by the Board for the Protection of Aboriginals, who ruled it to be exploitative. But the players wanted to play, so they snuck onto a ship and set sail for London.
Was that board acting in good faith, do you think?
I think so. I mean, it seems it. I mean, they were not...
That's a tangent. Sorry, it's not really relevant.
I mean, it's a whole other episode in itself, the Board for the Protection of Aborigines. But...
No, don't go to England.
Yeah. But, I mean, it seems like it. Yeah, it seems like they were like, no. And it's completely fair.
So they snuck onto a ship.
But they snuck onto a ship because they wanted to play. Yeah. But let's just be clear, in case we're thinking this is some kind of out of character display of like racial equality. This, to the publican at least, this is a business venture. It was a spectacle. So in between their incredibly busy, tight playing schedule on the county circuit, he'd booked them to perform traditional skills as part of the show, like boomerang and spear throwing to entertain the English crowds. The tour was intense, and it was also a disaster for both sides. For the English, it was a disaster on the scoreboard. They played 47 matches. In total, they had 14 wins, 14 losses, and 19 draws. An amazing feat. But the Australians were exhausted, undersupplied, and completely unprepared for the cold, damp English conditions.
It sucks over there.
Yeah. The tour was ravaged by disease. The players had no immunity to English illnesses. A player named King Cole died of tuberculosis on the tour.
Oh, no.
Another died shortly after returning home. The team's star, a guy named Unaraman, or Johnny Muller in English, was an incredible all-rounder. He scored 1,698 runs and took 245 wickets. Like, what the fuck? That's
Jesus
like
Christ. In how many games?
Like 47 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a phenomenal performance. Then he returned to Australia. He was forced onto a reserve and he died in obscurity.
Good job, Australia.
Good on you, Australia. The 68 tour, though, 1868 tour was a landmark moment. It was the first time an Australian sports team had ever represented the continent overseas. But it was a tragedy, born of exploitation, and it ended in death. And it was then systemically erased from the records by the English.
Luckily, we got an archaeologist here.
So after the tragic 1868 Aboriginal tour, the main takeaway for the English was that there was serious money to be made in the colonies. The 1870s became the era of the player promoter. So again, like these weren't national teams. There was no like Cricket Australia or the English Cricket Board. These were private business ventures. English professionals would pool their money or get a sponsor and launch a tour of Australia.
It's good. You slap your business on the thing and go out and do it, and that's
It was a betting. It was like
sports has operated ever since, really.
Yeah. So like it was and you know, it was a betting thing. That's where the money is coming from.
Gambling.
Yeah. So this brings us to the 1876-77 season. A professional English team led by James Lillywhite arrives in Australia for another one of these cash grab tours.
James who?
Lillywhite. They were, by all accounts, a ruthless winning machine. They played 23 matches across the colonies, but matches is a loose term. They played like local clubs. And
When you say the colonies, you mean Australia or other colonies?
like the colonies is in like New South Wales, Victoria, and Queensland, I think.
Oh.
To make the games interesting for the punters, the 11 English pros would often play against teams of like 15, 18, or even 22 local players and thrash them. They were arrogant, they were confident, but they were also vastly superior. But there were a few cracks in the facade. When they played 11 versus 11, the story changed. In January 1877, they played a full-strength New South Wales side, and they lost. A fast bowler named Fred the Demon Spofford was unplayable. He took 6 wickets, and he announced himself to the English as a serious threat. This was a massive shock. It proved the English could be beaten. Then they went on to Melbourne, and they played a full-strength Victorian team. This time, England won, restoring the natural order of things.
Yeah.
So in this situation, Lillywhite's tour is a bit of a mess, but more importantly, it's a financial mess, and they need a big payday fast. So the promoters,
Because they haven't got the results they wanted with the.
well, I think
bookies,
they'd
or-
lost money on the tour, and yeah, I guess because they didn't beat New South Wales, betting money was I don't know, but the tour was a financial mess, and they needed something to get the money flowing back in before they left. So they decided to stage a blockbuster match at the MCG. They got the best players from New South Wales and Victoria and create a combined Australian 11. The drama is perfect. The English are a bit complacent. The Australians are a cobbled together team of rivals from the colonies. And then, the final twist, Australia's greatest weapon, the demon Spofford, refuses to play. He has a
Spofford,
fit of
what are you
rage because of an umpiring dispute in a previous match. And more importantly, the selectors hadn't picked his preferred New South Wales wicketkeeper. So he storms out of the team.
Spofford.
This is the scene for the first test match in history. The first test.
Test match being a series of 5 matches.
Well, no, the test match just being like a 5-day game of cricket.
A 5-day game.
Country versus country.
First time the 5-day format had been used?
I think so. I think it's more like representative. I think the meaning of the test is more like it's a representative team, a representative Australian team versus representative
National.
England team.
Okay, all
Like
right.
our best versus your best.
Okay.
But I think also it's a 5-day thing. I think all the games against like local teams and like the county games and stuff, I think they're like 3-day games or something like that.
When we say 5 days, it's not actually 5 days, is it? It's just like however long, like you just bat as long as you can.
5
and then
days is the
you
cut.
get 2 turns each. Yeah, cuts off at 5 days.
Yeah, but I think back in those days it didn't actually have a cutoff time. I'm not sure.
It's
But
just,
yeah, I think
stay
we
in for as long as you can.
yeah I think we think of tests as officially a test if it's like a representative nation, best of the nation versus the best of another nation.
Okay, that's what the test play.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 1877, the Melbourne Cricket Ground. So the English touring side, led by James Lillywhite, and the combined 11 made of the best players from New South Wales and Victoria. It wasn't called a test match at the time. Nobody knew what it was. There was no tiny urn and there was no ashes. It was just another stop on a professional tour. But later, it will become the first official test match in history. The Australian captain, Dave Gregory, he wins the toss and he decides to bat. At first, it looks like it's going exactly the way everyone expected. The combined 11 innings starts to fall apart. Wickets are tumbling. It's all very predictable. But one man holds his ground. A guy from Sydney called Charles Bannerman.
Let's go, Bannerman.
Bannerman
Charlie.
isn't just playing well. You can't understate that. He's playing an innings that will define the entire rivalry before it even has a name. He's hitting the English professionals all over the park. He becomes the first man in history to score a test century. But it doesn't just stop there. He goes all the way to 165 runs. He only stopped when a ball crushes his hand and he's forced to retire hurt. Now, to put that 165 in perspective, you have to look at the team's total score. The entire combined 11 finishes with 245 runs. Bannerman, by himself, scored 67% of his team's total runs. That is a statistic that is so insane that the record still stands today 150 years later. The highest percentage of a team's runs scored by a single batsman in a completed test innings in the first ever test. It was a freakish performance.
So no one's beaten that percentage since.
No one's beaten it.
Well, it's a high percentage, but you think in the number of games that have been played since then.
Yeah.
Surely.
Even in like the super low scoring, like record low innings, there's not been a batsman that has stood up and made 67% of its team's total runs.
What did he get? Sorry, he scored 165 out of
245. So Australia are all out for 245. England goes in, they put up 196 in reply. Australia bats again in the second innings, but this time they stumble. And they set a much smaller total of 104. England needs 154 runs to win. And this is the moment where it should all go back to normal. This is where the gentlemen and the players assert their authority. This is where the colony gets put back in its box. 154 is not a difficult target. But then, England's innings collapses.
Yeah.
The Australian bowlers, led by a guy named Tom Kendall, rips through the English batting lineup. It's a disaster. England is skittled, all out for 108 runs. Australia wins by 45 runs. It is impossible to overstate what this meant. This was the shot heard around the empire. For the first time in a formal recognised contest, the colony had beaten the masters. The convicts had won. And this was a clean win. It was legitimate. It was undeniable. But the story doesn't end there. The upset is so big that the promoters immediately schedule a rematch. In the second match, England plays better, and they win by 4 wickets. So the final tally for this accidental, world-changing series is 1-1. Not a fluke. It's not a clean sweep. It's a draw.
What, they don't do a third?
No.
What? What are these promoters doing?
I guess it's like a risk. A risk they weren't willing to take.
All right. Well, that's it. We'll call it a draw. Thank you.
But it establishes, for the first time, that the two teams may actually be equals. Or to the Australians, at least.
Okay.
This is the 1-1 result. It changes everything. The game's no longer just a commercial venture. It's now soaked in pride. And the players are no longer just hired pros. They're representatives of the idea of a nation desperate to prove itself.
We really do need that as well, don't you? Like, I mean, everyone just needs that idea of a nation, something.
Yeah.
This is a point that I'm sure has been made, and maybe that's what you're building to. But
well, yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's just like, I think it's just sort of, it goes without saying, really, doesn't it? It's like, especially like, it was not harmony between the colonies, at this point. But this is like
between like Victoria, New South Wales, and whatnot.
Yeah, but
yeah. Well, I'm not even talking on that level though. I just mean like just something, just to. Well, yeah, maybe I am talking on that level, but just something to cheer for. Like you just got to have something.
And especially against the English, the ones that
especially against the English.
Yeah.
So and especially in that context as well. Of being a colony,
and just like what cricket was, it was this way of England's way of asserting dominance without physical violence, and they bend the rules to their favor just to sort of be like, see, even if you think you can beat us, you can't, type thing. Just like instill that mentality in the colonies. So this series proved to the Australians that we could fight. But to the English, it didn't prove we could win. Doesn't count unless we can back it up on English soil, apparently.
Yeah.
The first real sign that the convict stain was a keg of gunpowder just waiting for a spark came 2 years later, on February 8th, 1879, at the Association Ground in Sydney, which we now call the Sydney Cricket Ground. A team called Lord Harris's English Professionals were playing against New South Wales. It's hot. There are 10,000 people packed into the ground. And let's be clear, this isn't a polite crowd of gentlemen like at Lord's. This is 19th century Sydney. These are quite literally the sons of convicts. Just don't tell them that. These are working class fans who are known as the Cabbage Tree Mob, which is a loose term for like street gangs that wore hats made from the cabbage tree. They were the undesirables that the English establishment was so terrified of. They're loud, they're drunk, and they've paid their money to see the English gentlemen get beaten. The tension is already high. The English captain, Lord Harris, is the literal embodiment of the English aristocracy, a gentleman leading a team of players. But then, the spark. The star Australian batsman, Billy Murdoch, he's at the crease. A ball is bowled, Murdoch plays it, and the English keeper whips off the bails. He appeals for a stumping. The decision goes to the umpire, a man named George Coulthart. Now, here's the thing. To the outside world, this might seem like to all these guys, England is the number one enemy. You know, the main rival, the team they hate more than anyone else. But this is not the case at all. There's a much deeper, bitter and heated rivalry for that New South Wales 11 that predates the one with England. You see, George Coulthart wasn't from New South Wales. He was a Victorian.
Victorian, yeah, okay.
And to the 10,000 pissed Sydney locals, the guy's already a traitor. And they were convinced that Murdoch was in his crease. Coulthart pauses, and then his hand goes up. Murdoch's out. A howl of disapproval erupts from the stands. The Cabbage Tree Mob in the outer section, they just snap. They vault the fences and they invade the pitch. 2,000 people.
Who's in his fucking crease?
2,000 people storm the Sydney Cricket Ground. They swarm the field and they make a beeline straight for the English team. They're instantly surrounded by a sea of angry faces. They're swearing and carrying on. It was tense, but it wasn't physical yet.
Okay.
Lord What's-His-Face declares that this is a disgrace and that they shall not be playing the rest of the match. And he instructs his team to leave the field. And perhaps that would have been that. But one English player, a gentleman named A.N. Hornsby, he turns around, he grabs one of the pitch invaders and he calls him the son of a convict. All hell broke loose.
Yeah, you fucking...
Someone, described later as a cowardly ruffian, pushes through the crowd, pulls out a whip, and whips Lord What's-His-Face right in the face. The mob swarms the other English players. They're tearing at their clothes, but the man they really want is the umpire. They start hunting for Coulthart, the traitor. He sees the 2,000-strong lynch mob coming for him and does the only sane thing. He bolts, along with the English team. They lock themselves in the pavilion, and later Coulthart is smuggled out in disguise by match officials. The game is obviously abandoned. The aftermath is messy. The English press is horrified. This is everything they've ever thought about Australia confirmed in one afternoon. It's proof that the convicts are barbaric, ungentlemanly, and a disgrace. They're appalled. And the Australian media was even worse. They were mortified. Deeply, profoundly embarrassed. They call it a national disgrace. The ultimate cringe moment for colonial Australia, who at the time were desperate to be seen as legitimate. This was just the trigger. This is the pressure valve exploding. This is all the underlying class tension, all the convict resentment, all the us versus them hatred of the gentlemen who thought they were better than us. It was the first time the colony had physically laid hands on the master. The war had started, just wasn't being fought with guns. So that 1-1 draw in 1877 hit the two countries in completely different ways. In Australia, the event was like seismic, was a massive jolt of national self-confidence. Men like Charles Bannerman.
tied. We tied.
Yeah. He became the nation's first true sporting hero. For the first time, the colony had met the mother country and held its own. The idea of beating the Poms is officially born. But in England, the reaction is different. It was a mix of like shock, bit of embarrassment, but mostly just like pure condescension. It was seen as an amusing anomaly. The spare got lucky. The general attitude was like,
colonists.
so how quaint. Let's see them try that on a proper English wicket. There was no crisis, just like wounded pride that needed to be corrected. Which brings us to the 1978 Australian Tour of England. This was not an Australian team. This was another private thing. So this is basically a chance to show off the headline act of their travelling cricket show, Fred the Demon Spofford. The English were waiting. They were ready to put these amusing colonials back in their box. It wasn't a test tour, where they'll go and they'll play like in 5 different locations against England. This was like an Australian 11 playing county cricket, touring the counties, playing local teams. But the most important match of the tour was the Australians versus the full-strength Marylebone Cricket Club, the MCC, at Lords, which is their home ground. Now, like, Lords is the home of cricket. The Marylebone Cricket Club is the cricket club. England toured as the MCC until like the 70s. Whenever they played outside of England, they were the Marylebone Cricket Club. So it's like a quasi-Australia versus England, but not officially. But they had this match at the end of the tour. And in one single devastating afternoon, the Demon Spofford proves that 1877 was no fluke. He's unplayable. He bowled out the Marylebone Cricket Club for 33 runs. They bat again and he bowls them out for 19. They decimate the MCC by 9 wickets.
Jeez. He bowls them out for 19.
Yeah.
Fuck.
The English press and the public were stunned. This wasn't an amusing anomaly. This is a massacre on their holiest ground. This is the moment where the English realised they got a serious rival on their hands.
I've never heard of this guy, this demon guy. I've heard all about Bradman. Never heard about this demon.
Oh, he's a legend. I love him after doing this, putting this thing together. He's a mad cunt.
But is that weird? That's not just me, right? Like he's not a famous character.
I think so.
Never heard of him.
I mean, I mentioned that I was putting this together to my dad and my brother the other day. And I was like, there was this guy, and I couldn't remember his name. It was like the Demon or something. My dad was like, Spofford. So, right. People have heard of him.
Okay.
I hadn't.
Well, yeah, okay.
So
interesting.
There was this 78 tour, and then there was this English tour of Australia in 1880. But again, like it was private, and they were just playing like either the colonies or local teams or like the county teams in England. But this rivalry was heating up, and by the time an Australian team led by Billy Murdoch set sail for England in 1882, the entire context around it has changed. And the important distinction here is that this was not a privately run promo tour. This was a representative Australian team touring as Australia. It was essentially a player-run cooperative. The players, organised by their manager, put up their own money to finance the tour and agreed to share the profits. They were, like, in effect, their own authority. They selected the team, which was, of course, made up of themselves, and they negotiated the match schedule directly with the English counties and the MCC. So on one side, you have England, represented by the mighty, ancient and powerful Marylebone Cricket Club, the undisputed rulers and fathers of the game. And on the other side, you have Australia, a conglomerate of colonies from the farthest reaches of the earth, no governing body, representing a nation that doesn't even exist yet, a self-funded cooperative of professional players united only by their talent and their burning desire to beat the English.
Yeah, I was going to say, what did the Australian team call themselves?
Well,
the term Australia didn't even... They were Australia?
Yeah.
That was a term back then?
Yeah. It was the name of the continent, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, okay, that's a separate...
Yeah, so the continent was called Australia, but obviously that was the colonies weren't united as a country. They were just separate colonies.
I guess that was since Flinders, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one of those guys
that was sort of
pushed
like
for the
1800s.
name Australia to be adopted to describe the landmass, yeah.
Southern land.
Yeah. The English are on high alert. These amusing colonials are now a genuine threat to their national pride.
Fuck yeah.
Now, like any war, it's not just played out on the battlefield. It's a full-blown psychological operation played by the media in the lead-up, during and after every match. That is the case today, as it was in this first tour. The press in 1882 was the propaganda arm of the empire, and their attitude towards the Australians was a cocktail of fascination, condescension, and outright hostility. The entire tour was framed as a novelty, a curiosity. The Australians, these cornstalks, they called us. They were depicted as rough, uncultured, yet surprisingly effective. Their patronising undertone was constant. If we won, it was a fluke. If we lost, it was just the natural order of the world reasserting itself. And, you know, this wasn't just about pride. It was about money. Cricket had a massive betting industry behind it. Huge sums were wagered on the games. So this media hype was feeding a machine. It was a generous mix of nationalistic fervour, class snobbery, and the raw tension of high-stakes gambling. The first team, just like the current team every time we played there, were playing against the entire English establishment and its powerful media machine. Even though like a good portion of that is Australian these days, but I digress. Every good propaganda story needs a villain and a hero. Steve Smith, Shane Warne, Don Bradman, they always go after the biggest threat, the hardest. And yet again, this was true on that first tour, as it is today. The English press and the public were obsessed with Fred the Demon Spofford. They were terrified of his bowling, and they were also deeply suspicious of him. He was the colonial upstart in human form. He was aggressive, cunning, and totally disrespectful of his superiors. They accused him of being a thrower, you know, using an illegal bowling action, a cheat, and a man who played with ungentlemanly level of ferocity. Savage ferocity. He was
You can't beat her. You can't hit the ball that far.
Yeah, you're cheating. You're cheating. They're here to watch me bat, not you bowl.
Supposed to give it a delicate tap.
On the other side, the press lionised their own. Dr. W.G. Grace. He wasn't just a player. He was a national institution, the physical embodiment of English virtue and cricketing genius. The entire contest was framed explicitly as Grace's civilised skill versus Spofford's savage aggression. This is the psychological battlefield the Australians walk onto at the Oval in 1882. The duel isn't just Murdoch versus Grace, it's Spofford versus the Empire. The 1882 tour was a monster. Australia played 38 first-class matches between May and September. On August 17 to 19, they played Kent. They had a day off, and then August 21 to 23, they played Sussex. The next day, they played a match against a Players 11. They had one day off between that last match and the start of the most important game they would ever play. August 28th, 1882, the Oval. Now, I managed to dig up a match report of this game from the Winston Cricket Journal, which is just a couple of about a page describing the bits of the match and the scorecard. And that's all I could find about it. So I combined them both together. So here we go. Most importantly, by this last game, Australians star bowler, the Demon himself, he's cooked. He did his hand and he can't play. But before the toss, W.G. Grace spots Spofford sitting on the sideline nursing his hand. He walks past him and he mutters some words. Those words are now lost to history, but it was something to the effect of, "You're not even injured. You're just a pussy who's afraid to lose." And that would prove to be one of the biggest mistakes he ever made because it lit a fire inside of the Demon. He was infuriated, so infuriated that he said, "Fuck the hand," and he declared himself fit to play.
Let's go.
The Australian captain, Billy Murdoch, he wins the toss. Now, he chose to bat first. This is a strange call because the pitch was a sticky wicket. It was damp, completely unpredictable. It was a bowler's paradise and a batsman's nightmare. But he chose to bat first. It sounded like insanity. It was a strategic gamble, obviously. Murdoch knows the pitch is only going to get worse, so he decided that we need to get runs on the board, any runs, while it's even remotely playable. But it was a disaster. It was a desperate scrap for survival. Macy's clean bowled by a Yorker for 6. Murdoch's out for 21. The key detail that shows us just how impossible the pitch is comes from Charles Bannerman, the hero of 77, who scored 165 not out. He batted for an hour and 5 minutes, made 9 runs. He's finally put out of his misery by a low-down left-handed catch from W.G. Grace at point. The innings just evaporates. Jack Blackham's bowled for 0. Tail follows, all out for a sad 63 runs. The English gentlemen are nodding. This is the natural order finding its place.
All out for 67.
All out for 63.
63.
At 3:30 p.m, day 1, England's inning starts. Fred the Demon Spofforth, he's about to show him what this savage aggression is full of. Really looks like.
Even with a sore hand.
Even with a sore hand. He bowls the champion W.G. Grace for 13.
All right.
But England's a strong side. They dig in. A partnership between Lucas and Ulyett gets them to 50. But Spofforth is relentless. He stumps Ulyett. He gets Lucas snapped at the wicket. Stud is bowled for 0. Half the English team's now out for 60. England scrapes their way to 101 runs. The lead is 38. On this pitch, it feels more like 380. Australia starts their second innings, 38 runs in the hole. Up steps a batter named Hugh Macy. Macy, watching the slow grinding defensive scrap, decides to hell with this and goes on a one-man counter-attack. He smashes 55 runs in 50 minutes. 9 fours, 2 threes, 3 twos. It's a kamikaze run. And it's working. He was dropped on 38, which was a fatal mistake. While Macy's blasting, Bannerman's holding it down at the other end. He makes 13 runs in his hour in there. But the most memorable moment of this innings isn't just the boundaries by Macy. A batsman named Jones plays a ball. The English wicketkeeper, Littleton, fields it. The ball is returned. Jones, having completed a run, naturally, as the Winston report puts it, wanders out of his crease, thinking the ball's dead. W.G. Grace, seeing this, puts his wicket down. The umpire gives him out.
Okay.
The Australians are furious. They're angry. This isn't gentleman's conduct. This is a cheap shot. This is a win-at-all-costs moves.
Indeed.
As Jones later admitted, this was a lesson. The game's changed. It's no longer a sport. It's a fight. The rest of the team, led by Murdoch, scrapes to the total of 122.
Okay.
The math is
Before
done.
we go on, do we have a record of whether that batsman gave a little signal with his foot at the crease before he left?
The umpire has to call it. The umpire has to call end of the over.
But do we have a record of whether he made a little signal with his foot or not?
No, we don't have a record. Well, this is literally the Winston match report is the only record I could find, and it doesn't mention it. It just mentions it, but it's like it just mentions that he naturally walked out of his crease, like as if like it was obvious that the.
So he didn't signal to everyone on the field that he wasn't trying to take any advantage.
No.
You understand why I'm asking this?
Yeah.
I assume.
I mean, it was within the rules, but it was like, made clear that you don't do that. Make note of that because it's going to come.
Your crease or take a cheap wicket.
Well, take the cheap wicket.
You don't take the cheap wicket.
No, it's not the gentlemanly way to play. That was the Australian assumption. But as I said, as Jones later admitted, it was a lesson.
Okay.
Remember that point. Write that one down for later. So England needs 85 runs to win in the second innings.
We've still got our bowler, right?
Yeah.
We've got the demon. All right.
The crowd settles in, sees it as a bit of a formality. At 3:45 p.m, day 2, Grace and Hornby walk out. Spofforth takes the ball. He bowls Hornby off stump. 15 for 1.
Yes.
Barlow comes out, joins Grace. Spofforth bowls him first ball. 15 for 2.
Yes.
The crowd goes quiet.
Go, son.
But Grace and Ulyett, two of England's best, they fight back. They start hitting and they steady the ship. They get the score to 51.
Oof.
Then Spofforth.
What are we chasing?
They need 85.
Okay.
Then Spofforth gets all yet caught, 51 for 3.
Yes.
34 runs needed, 7 wickets in hand. This is the moment. The moment the spare is about to make his move. Spofforth gets grace again, caught at mid-off, 53 for 4.
Yes.
Littleton comes out, joins Lucas at the crease, and this is the moment where the game just fucking stops.
Okay.
The pressure is so immense. The bowling, by all accounts, so accurate. They don't hit a single run for 12 overs.
Jeez, what?
Yeah.
That's got to be another record. That can't stand. That's got to still stand to today.
Yeah, I meant to actually check that record up, but I didn't get to it.
I'm confident making that claim. Now,
Yeah.
no runs in 12 overs.
Yeah.
12 maidens.
And this is, by all accounts, like the tension in the crowd is incredible. Like the tension is almost unbearable. Then Spofforth finally breaks the deadlock. He bowls Littleton. 5 for 66. 19 runs needed with 5 wickets in hand. And the collapse begins. Boyle gets still.
Continues.
70 for 6. Spofforth bowls Reed. 70 for 7. Barnes comes in. He and Lucas manage to get the score to 75. 10 runs to win. 3 wickets left. You couldn't even adequately describe the tension that would have been felt in the crowd at this point. One man is so tense, he could not watch. He had his back to the crowd, all tensed up, holding his umbrella, and he famously chews right through the handle. Another man in the crowd is so tense, it gets too much for him, and he drops dead from a heart attack.
Really?
Really.
Really?
It's in the match report.
Fuck me.
Spofforth bowls Lucas, 75 for 8. Stud comes in. Spofforth gets him caught, 75 for 9. 10 runs to win, 1 wicket left.
Oh my God.
Barnes is at one end. Pete, the last man, is at the other. Pete manages to hit a 2. The score is 77.
Okay.
8 runs to win, 1 wicket left.
Yep.
Spofforth runs in, bowls to Barnes. He hits the stumps. It's over. England's all out for 77. Australia wins by 7 runs.
Yes!
The English crowd is stunned and apparently deathly silent. Like, it was just fucking silent. You know, or like, all you can hear is the Australian team.
Okay, yes. Get that up, you cunt.
But this was it. The convicts beat the Masters in their house. The next day, the English press is mourning. A journalist named Reginald Shirley Brooks, writing for the Sporting Times, prints a obituary in the paper.
An affectionate remembrance of English cricket, which died at the Oval on the 29th of August, 1882, deeply lamented by a large circle of sorrowing friends and acquaintances. Rest in peace. Note, the body will be cremated and the ashes taken to Australia.
It was a joke, but it was also a genuine expression of national trauma. The English captain, Evo Bligh, immediately vows to travel to Australia that winter to regain those ashes. The name sticks. The entire concept, the name, the rivalry, all born from this one heart-stopping, umbrella-handle-chewing game.
Heart attack inducing.
And regain them again, England did. Both countries entered their first peak Ashes period. Throughout the 1880s and 90s, England was definitely the dominant side, but that changed as the years ticked over to the 20th century. The nation of Australia was founded. The Australian Board of Control, later Cricket Australia, was founded. The national team became a national team, integrated with the domestic competition, and now fighting for an actual country. Australia enters its first era of domination, helped in a big part by the legendary batsman Victor Trumper.
Oh, okay. I don't know him either. They're playing every 2 years from the get-go, or
that was From that point on, it was every 2 years.
From 1870, 82. Okay.
And the playing field started to level heading into the 1910s, but the game came to an abrupt halt during World War I. The Ashes and all first-class cricket was suspended. The players traded their cricket bites for military uniforms. In the war, England lost 34 Test cricketers. Australia lost 2, but also pretty much the entire pool of their young, promising first-class players were killed. And this is where
Do
the
something about all these wars. They seem like
sublimated warfare aspect gets real. We've talked about the convict stain and the class warfare, but this was the great betrayal, Gallipoli. This is the moment that could have and maybe should have escalated to a full-blown split from the Empire. The masters in London, in their infinite wisdom, sent the colonial spares to die on a beach in a pointless, impossible fight. The connection between the Anzac legend and the cricket legend is inextricably linked. The players were the soldiers. Most famously is Tibby Cotter. He was one of Australia's most ferocious pre-war fast bowlers. He served as a stretcher bearer at Gallipoli, survived it, but then was killed in action at Beersheba in 1917 as part of the cavalry brigade on their way to capture Jerusalem. The same qualities that came to define the ideal Australian cricketer, the bravery, the resourcefulness, the defiant larrikin playing the game hard, these became the same qualities that defined the Aussie diggers. The cricket hero and the war hero became psychologically intertwined. So after the war, the pressure is at an all-time high. The resentment is no longer about class or convicts, it's about betrayal. The Ashes resumes, and the pressure valve is cranked open. The 1920-21 series is played in Australia.
Is that the first one back?
Yeah, the first one back after the war. Australia, led by Warwick, the big ship Armstrong, great name, fields a team of hardened men. Many of them were returned soldiers. And the result was an execution. Australia annihilated England in a 5-0 whitewash. The first time this had ever happened.
Good.
This is more than just a cricket result. It was the release, a powerful symbolic statement. This is Australia, the nation that felt it had sacrificed so much for the empire, asserting its dominance the only way we could. The child had come back from the war tougher, harder, and better than ever. This 5-0 thrashing was a psychological turning point. It cemented a new sense of Australian superiority. And unbeknownst to England, while they were having their asses handed to them in that series, a young 12-year-old boy from country New South Wales had just scored 55 not out in his first game of cricket for his school team. He had no way to watch these acid tests, but you bet your ass he was studying the match reports, absorbing the data, learning, and in his backyard, with a golf ball and a cricket stump, he was already training obsessively, relentlessly, honing in the skills that would, in less than a decade, take the dominance of Armstrong's team and turn it into a one-man reign of terror that would bring the British Empire to its knees. The man's name is Don Bradman, but I don't need to tell you that because we learned about him in primary school. Don Bradman's ascent from an unknown country boy to the most dominant sportsman on the planet was far from a quiet ascent. It was a vertical, explosive eruption that left the cricketing world shell-shocked. In 2 years leading up to the 1930 Ashes tour, Bradman was out there shattering the entire concept of what was possible for a batsman. He was an anomaly. He was a glitch. And his arrival terrified the English establishment. The first signs of this coming cricket apocalypse appeared on the Australian domestic season of 28-29. Having just made his test debut, a young 20-year-old Bradman announced himself as a run-making machine. But it was the way he scored them that was so unnerving. So it wasn't
20,
the elegant...
Did you say he started at 20?
Yeah, 20-year-old Bradman. Which is amazing in itself, really. You don't get many 20-year-old test cricketers.
Okay.
Well, you do, but they just generally get dropped from the team pretty quickly and then come back a few years later.
Sure. Anyway, sorry. He
didn't have the elegant, classic style of the English gentleman. His technique was unique and incredibly efficient. He had a weird, rotary action and a bottom-handed grip that the purists scorned at. But the result was a torrent of runs scored with an almost inhuman precision. He accumulated runs clinically and without mercy, like a machine compiling data. It was the 1930 Ashes tour of England that transformed him from a national sensation into a global phenomena and an imperial problem. He arrived in England as a promising young player. He left as a living legend who had psychologically broken the mother country. His performance in that series was an act of sustained, glorious demolition. He scored 974 runs, a record that has never been broken, at an average of 139 an innings.
Jesus Christ.
At Headingley, he scored a world record 334, including 309 runs in a single day's play. And then he followed it up with 254 at Lords and 232 at the Oval.
Okay, so he is very good.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Because I mean, we hear a lot of talk about how he's this greatest shot, but yeah, there's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that. The English bowlers, who were the best in the world, they were made to look like helpless schoolboys. They had no answer. They tried everything: swing, spin, pace, and he just kept scoring. To the English, they were facing a force of nature that had humiliated them on their own soil. Bradman's rise was an assault to the English sense of superiority. Here's a colonial upstart who had perfected their game to a level that they couldn't even comprehend. He'd broken the game, and in doing so, he'd broken the English cricketing spirit. They couldn't get him out with a cricket ball, so they decided to try and get him out with a weapon. Well, it was still a cricket ball, but, they decided to try and use the cricket ball as a weapon.
Throw it faster.
So before we talk about the 1932-33 Ashes in Australia, I just want to mention some context. This is the Great Depression. The global economy has collapsed. And we know from our episode on the group and the formation of the United Australia Party that this was a chaotic time in Australia. The Labor government was considering the possibility of maybe freezing interest rates or, God forbid, even pushing them down. I know, full-blown communism, hey? But the upper echelons of our society got together and created their own political party to ensure that didn't happen. Despite this, the New South Wales government, led by Jack Lang, is threatening to default on its loans to English banks. The old convict resentment is now a very real, very modern creditor-debtor crisis. Australia is broke, angry and defiant, and England is the creditor. So that's happening in the background. On top of all this, you've got the performance of the 1930 series that was a national humiliation for England. The entire English establishment, from the government down to the MCC, had become obsessed with the need to stop Bradman. So they appointed a man to solve the Bradman problem. His name was Douglas Jardine.
Okay.
Jardine was an aristocrat. Cold, ruthless, and he wears a stupid Oxford Harlequin cap when he plays. He has a pathological contempt for Australians.
What's an Oxford Harlequin cap?
It's just like the cap that you get when you go to some of their exclusive Oxford schools.
Like a beret kind of thing? A boater kind of thing.
Like the private school cap. Kind of just looks like a cricket cap.
Okay, yeah.
So he's appointed captain to win back the Ashes by any means necessary. So during a tour match, before the Australian season had, the Ashes series has started, Jardine noticed that Bradman was showing a rare flicker of discomfort when the ball was bowled short and fast at his body. Now, just for anyone who's not very familiar with cricket, if you've lasted this long, short means they're bowling. We call it a bouncer. So it's like when you sort of bowl it really fast, sort of into the ground, closer to the bowler, so that it bounces really high. So it's not sort of at a comfortable height to hit. It's sort of too high to comfortably get to with your bat.
Talking about the distance between leaving the hand and the bounce.
Yeah.
It's a shorter distance or a longer distance.
Yeah, exactly. So Jardine knows that he's got the arsenal to execute a plan here. He's got two terrifyingly fast bowlers, Harold Larwood and Bill Vose. In secret, Jardine and his senior players developed the blueprint. The Australian press will later call it bodyline. It basically went like this. The bowler hurls the ball at maximum speed at the batsman's head and body. Meanwhile, the field is stacked on the leg side with a leg trap of fielders waiting like sharks for a deflection off the glove or something like that. The batsman has two choices, basically. Get hit and risk serious injury, or fend the ball away defensively, which would likely loop up for a simple catch. Jardine insisted on calling it fast leg theory, but let's call it what it was. A systematic, premeditated attempt to physically injure the opposition into submission. The English team arrives for the 32-33 tour. The tactic is unleashed. It's immediately clear that this is something different, something ugly. The war goes hot in the third test in Adelaide. The captain, Australian captain, Bill Woodfull, he's at the crease. Larwood bowls. Woodfull struck by a blow right over the heart. He drops his bat and staggers. He's clearly in agony. As Woodfull is reeling, Jardine, the gentleman, turns to his bowler, Larwood, and shouts, loud enough for the entire ground to hear, "Well bowled, Harold." The Australian crowd, 50,000 people watching their captain get assaulted, they erupt into a tidal wave of fury. The scenes are described as being even uglier and more dangerous than the 1979 Sydney riot.
Well, I was going to say, do they storm the field and whip him?
No, it's a full-scale riot. It is narrowly averted.
Okay.
But it gets worse. Later
Become
in the
soft.
Yeah.
Become soft as a colony.
Yeah, exactly. They know we can beat them, so let them beat them. Let them beat them. Later in the same innings, the Australian wicketkeeper, Bert Oldfield, is struck in the head by a Larwood bouncer. He suffers a fractured skull and is carried from the field. Now there are tangible casualties. In this case, the sublimated warfare almost fails, the pressure valve breaks, and the real war almost starts. And so continue.
Sorry, is the problem with this that they're not going for the wicket?
They're like just trying to injure the batsman.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a sport.
This is like contest, before right? Helmets and before like lots of padding. And it was just, it goes back to this whole like gentlemanly spirit of the game. You know, the idea is like, you don't do that. It was like, oh, well, we're not doing that. Like we could do that. We're not doing that though in the spirit of the game. And you guys just like doing that, just trying to injure us.
The spirit of any game is to win the competition based on the rules.
Yeah.
But I feel like the moral problem here is that they're like, as a bowler, you're supposed to try and get them out, hit the wickets. You're supposed to try and hit the wickets.
Yeah, it seems like it's not so much about hitting the wickets. That. Bouncer is a perfectly legitimate bowl because you you try and get them to hit a catch.
So what's wrong with what England's doing here then?
Well, I've got some footage, and this guy explains the series a little bit as well, so I'll throw it over to him.
Faced with possibly Australia's strongest ever batting lineup, including Ponsford, Woodfull, McCabe and Don Bradman in full flow, England committed Harold Larwood, fast and accurate, to deliberately attack the batsman's body rather than the stumps.
Yeah, so he's definitely not going for the wicket.
The bodyline blitz brought the Ashes into England's keeping again by a margin of 4-1. But it left a very nasty taste.
Oh, is that when he gets his chest? Yeah.
18 months later, bodyline was banned, Bradman was in full command, and for the next 20 years or so, England couldn't find a dominating pair of bowlers, and they couldn't win a test series.
There was fallout. Like, there was...
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is I'm having a hard time understanding the moral, like the nature, the foundation of the moral objection to that. Like, what is it? It's just if you tell me that the game is where you got to bowl the thing and then try and not let them score runs, then that's...
Well, it's that there's this unspoken rule of gentlemanly conduct and the spirit of the game. And this is like, and I keep coming back to this, and I'm making a point here because England loves to fucking whinge about the spirit of the game whenever Australia does anything remotely against their liking. And it's just like so hypocritical because like, this is like, it's in response to like England
a really good battle.
Playing in the spirit of the game, for so long, preaching this like gentlemanly sport where you play gentlemanly and you don't do anything untoward, and we're all friends at the end of the day and whatever, and then they just do shit like this out of nowhere.
There's also an element of actual violence to it as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, how was that last ball? Like, it just cracked him in the fucking skull. The guy's bowling like 140k an hour. Yeah, he's got no helmet on. Fractures his skull, and players have fucking died getting hit in the skull with a helmet on.
Protect yourselves at all times, as they say in combat sports.
Yeah. Well,
But
this
it's
is
not
the
a
problem.
combat
It's
sport.
not a
That's the
combat
point.
sport.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Australian Board of Control sent a formal diplomatic cable to the MCC in London.
A strongly worded letter.
It reads, bodyline bowling has assumed such proportions as to menace the best interests of the game and is making protection of the body by the batsman the main consideration. This is causing intensely bitter feeling between the players as well as injury. In our opinion, it is unsportsmanlike. Unless stopped at once, it is likely to upset the friendly relations existing between Australia and England.
Well said.
The word unsportsmanlike did not go down well. And, but that last sentence upset the friendly relations. That's the real threat. This was the Australian government through the cricketing board telling the British Empire to stop or they will break political ties. The crisis goes to the highest levels of government. The governor of South Australia even sent a secret cable to London warning of civil unrests and boycotts of British goods.
Seriously, guys?
Yeah. The thing that had been preventing conflict, the Ashes, had just become the conflict. But England won the series 4-1. Bradman still managed to average about 55 a innings, but that was pretty poor for him. But the fallout was immense, and the MCC, under massive political pressure from the English government, they changed the laws of cricket to effectively outlaw bodyline.
Do you know how they did that?
Yeah, so it's like they obviously didn't outlaw like bouncers, and I mean this is kind of nothing in
how do you do it
compared to today's game, because today's game they have padding all over them and helmets, and it's quite a common thing to bowl of the body. So what they outlawed was the field setting of all the players in close, because the reason what made it so dangerous is that the batsmen were hesitant to protect themselves because they'd get caught by the abundance of fielders on the leg side.
Okay.
So that's what was causing the injury. So they outlawed that fielding setup for bowling short with like everyone in on the leg side. So you can only have two players in close.
Thereby reduces the usefulness of the body line.
Yeah,
bowling.
so you can actually protect yourself and deflect from the ball without risking. Well, I mean, you're still obviously risking your wicket, but not like such a sure thing to just stopping yourself from being potentially dead from a cricket ball.
Yeah,
will result in your wicket. You know. So that's the rule that was changed. Jardine, the mastermind of the plan, won the battle, but he lost the war. He was removed as captain and he never led England again. But the catalyst for the final actual break from the motherland was the fall of Singapore in 1942. This was, without a doubt, the single most important geopolitical event in Australian history. The spell was shattered. The myth was that Britain's impregnable fortress in Singapore was the cornerstone of Australia's defence policy. We trusted the Crown and we trusted the Royal Navy to protect us. In reality, the fortress fell to the Japanese in a matter of days. It was a catastrophic, humiliating military disaster for the British. For Australia, the psychological impact was clear. Britain cannot protect us. They will, and they did, prioritise their own survival over ours. We are, and always were, on our own. This was the moment where the spare finally, truly leaves the palace and immediately pivots to America.
Okay, well, I mean, it sounds like this is pretty significant. I don't really know much about this. Are we spending any time here, or are we just going to move on?
Well, this was Second World War. This is, we basically, that was our comfort blanket, you know? It was like...
Singapore was a British...
Singapore was apparently impregnable. And impregnable.
So was it a colony? No.
Yeah, Singapore was a colony. Well, it was an East India
British
Company
stronghold
colony.
of Singapore. Yeah. Okay.
And the Japanese took it in a couple. They basically just walked in and said, "We own the place now."
Said, "Oop,
they basically did the East India Company thing, and they just fucking walked in, put their flag down, and they said, "All right, we own you."
Mm-hmm. and so then what? Then we had to fall back, and that what is that when we started relying on Papua New Guinea, for example? Then we thought Papua New Guinea was going to be our resistance against.
Well, that was
Japanese
with America.
incursions.
We were holding Papua New Guinea with America. It
But
was
as a defense
so
of the Japanese.
Well, basically, what happened is John Curtin came out and he said, "We're now going to look to America, free of any pangs as to our traditional links or kinship with the United Kingdom." And then,
that's
what's
what
his
John
face?
Curtin said.
McCarthy came out. McCarthy or MacArthur?
MacArthur.
General MacArthur came
Yeah.
out, and he was stationed in Brisbane or Darwin or both, whatever.
Okay.
And the Americans all sort of set up shop up there, and then we used Papua New Guinea as a buffer.
So when England let Singapore fall to Japan was a watershed moment in the history of Anglo-Australian relations.
Correct.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
I'm learning this shit.
So that was the official declaration of the end of Australia's dependence on Britain. We fired the royal family and we hired our own, much bigger, much stronger American security detail.
In 1942.
1942. And that old master-servant, parent-child relationship is kind of dead and buried. The Ashes rivalry enters a sort of strange, long and dull period. Australia is now a firm American ally. And we're looking across the pond culturally, politically, militarily, not to London. And the cricket reflects this. The on-the-field contest just kind of stops being a proxy war and it becomes just a cricket series. For 30 years following the war, it was still Ashes was still important, or a cherished tradition, but it lacked the existential, nation-defining bitterness of the pre-war era. It was a family reunion that had become more ritual than a rivalry.
Yeah, it's been going for a few decades at this point.
Oh, it's been it's been 50, more than 50 years, 70 odd years or something. But then in the late 70s and early 80s, the embers were deliberately fanned back into a roaring flame, but
By
for a new
beer
purpose.
companies or something?
Kerry Packer's World Series cricket dragged the game out of its gentlemanly past and into the modern televised professional era. Turned players into global superstars. And then from that came off the back of that came the larger-than-life performances of men like England's Ian Botham and Australia's Alan Border, who created blockbuster narratives that recaptured the public imagination. The Ashes was reborn, not as a proxy war for independence. This time it was a carefully managed, multi-million-dollar piece of cultural theatre. For Australia...
Back to its roots, really. Back to its roots.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess, yeah.
Relatively
Little
speaking.
from column A, little from column B. Still is, I think. For Australia, it became a safe, spectacular way to celebrate our national identity. But for England, I propose anyway, it began to serve a new, subtle, yet very important political purpose. Became a tool of soft power diplomacy. The Ashes became a biannual propaganda exercise, a carefully staged drama designed to send a clear, unspoken message across the oceans. Don't forget us. Don't forget the family. Remember this special, unique, brilliant thing that we share. In a world where Australia no longer needed them, the modern Ashes became Britain's most effective tool for ensuring the rebellious second son never fully left the Commonwealth.
Okay. So they can see the value in that.
Yeah. The Ashes thing off the back of World Series cricket, which is basically Kerry Packer decided to modernise cricket and came up with the idea of playing a game, the wild idea of playing a game in one day.
And is that in his capacity as Channel 9 or something? Or
I think it was obviously Channel 9 had the television rights to it, so it's obviously benefited Channel 9 a lot.
But
I think it was...
Is that his involvement in it? Is that what he's...
No, it was like his idea. It was like his thing.
But what's his stake in it? Just to do it for fun?
I guess he owned World Series cricket, I suppose, yeah.
Okay. And was that before he had Channel 9, or am I getting things mixed? I don't know.
No, I think it was side by side. I think Kerry Packer was like...
Channel 9.
I mean, it was... obviously, his ultimate goal was to like just like get more viewers, to cricket and make more money. But he made it happen.
So he owned the series.
I'm not sure exactly, but I know that he started. Like it was his thing. It's known like Kerry Packer is synonymous with World Series cricket. Made all the good players bona fide superstars, and off the back of that, the Ashes had a new global television audience. The rivalry needed a blockbuster narrative, and in the English,
he did have a. It was to get audience to Channel 9.
Yeah.
So Channel 9 was his thing. That was the point. Anyway, sorry.
So in the summer of 1981, the Ashes got its blockbuster narrative. An Australian team led by Kim Hughes was on the verge of crushing England when their swashbuckling, charismatic, larger-than-life all-rounder Ian Botham produced a series of miraculous, single-handed performances with both bat and ball to turn the series on its head. It became known as Botham's Ashes, a heroic, almost mythical tale that re-energized the contest and cemented a new era of English confidence. For a broken and demoralized Australia, still reeling from the mass retirements of its 70s legends and the schism of the Packer years, the World Series cricket took a lot of test players. This was a humiliation. But in the ashes, excuse the pun, of Australia's repeated defeats through the 80s, a new national character was being forged in this failure, embodied by one man, Alan Border. He was handed the captaincy of a team decimated by retirements. He was known as Captain Grumpy. He was a leader defined by a pathological hatred of losing. He was a tough, nuggety, no-frills batsman who carried the entire fragile team on his back, but he instilled a culture of sheer bloody-mindedness and a stubborn refusal to give in. For years, they were the whipping boys of the Ashes throughout pretty much the entire 80s. But under Border's grim leadership, they were learning how to fight again. And they were rebuilding, not with the same flair of Botham's England, but with a quiet, simmering resolve that the English establishment fatally mistook for weakness. But they kind of thoroughly beat us throughout the entire 80s. But the culmination of this long rebuild came in the English summer of 1989. Border led a team of upstarts to England, and this squad was like mercilessly mocked by the English press. They called them the worst Australian side to ever tour England. These were names that they'd never heard before. No one had ever heard before. Names like Mark Taylor, David Boone, Steve Waugh, Merv Hughes. They didn't just win the series.
I know some of those names.
They systematically dismantled a complacent England 4-0 in England.
Hell yeah.
The era of English dominance of the 80s was over. England didn't know it yet, but this was the birth of the modern, professional, and utterly unplayable Australian cricket machine.
Fuck yeah.
But the shock of this thrashing didn't lead to a respectful reassessment in England, obviously, as it never does. It led to a doubling down on arrogance, as it always does. The narrative spun by the English press and the establishment was this wasn't a victory for a superior Australian side. It was an embarrassing failure by an English team that lost its nerve. The Australians were still seen as the beneficiaries of a freak result. A team of charmless tradesmen. They won, yeah, but they didn't win the right way. This prevailing attitude was that normal service would be resumed as soon as England found a captain with a bit of a proper English backbone. The idea that this group of unheralded players, these unknown upstarts, Mark Taylor, David Boone, Steve Waugh, the idea that they were maybe the heralding the signs of a new cricketing world order were considered laughable in England. These guys were not legends. They were upstarts who had gotten lucky. And this sense of denial carried into the Ashes series of the early 90s. When Australia arrived in England in 1993, the focus wasn't on the Australian team at all, but it was on England's own perceived strengths. The Australians' success of the interim years were completely dismissed. This team now touring the next Ashes in 93 was, again, the worst team ever to tour. This is a label they couldn't shake, no matter how many games they won. The stage was set, in their minds, for a glorious English restoration. And then, on a summer's day at Old Trafford, a young, peroxide blonde, slightly overweight leg spinner from Victoria named Shane Warne was tossed a ball for the first time in an Ashes test. What happened next became known as the ball of the century.
Don't tell me this is his first ball.
This was the first ball in an Ashes test for
Shane Warne. Really?
First ball in Test cricket in England for Shane Warne. And he's done it. He started off with the most beautiful delivery.
The umpire can't even believe it.
Gary has absolutely no idea what has happened to it. He still doesn't know. He asked Kenny Palmer on the way out. Kenny Palmer just gave him a raised eyebrow and a little nod, and that's all it needed.
There we go.
Well, that has turned about 2.5 feet. Gadding can't believe his eyes. What a start for Shane Warne. Mike Gadding bowled Warne for 4. England 2 for 80.
And that was literally his first ball, huh?
His first ball in an Ashes test. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, extraordinary. And so now we're entering a whole new era, right? This is the doorway into a new world.
Yes, this was the new cricketing world order.
Fucking yeah.
The ball of the century, ripped from outside leg stump to Mike Gadding's off stump. This was the public execution of an entire era of English arrogance. The arrival of Warne, and then in the following summer, Glenn McGrath.
He's out, straight into the lap of...
Shattered the last vestiges of English denial. They could no longer dismiss this Australian team as a bunch of lucky nobodies. They're now facing a team armed with two of the greatest, most terrifying bowlers the game had ever seen. England didn't just lose a series in 1989. They lost the Ashes, and with the arrival of these new god-tier superstars, they were beginning to understand that they might not get them back for a very, very long time. The era of Australian dominance hadn't been a fluke, it was just getting started. For the next decade, a succession of English teams, often talented and hopeful in their own right, would arrive in Australia or host them at home, only to be systematically dismantled by one of the greatest sporting teams ever assembled. Led first by Mark Taylor and then by Steve Waugh, this Australian side, Hayden, Langer, Ponting, the Waugh brothers, Gilchrist, Warne, McGrath, this is a pantheon of cricketing gods. The Ashes earned became a permanent fixture in a Melbourne trophy cabinet, and the contest itself for a generation of English fans became a recurring nightmare, a biannual exercise in hope being crushed by a relentless sun-bronzed machine.
It's like being a New South Welshman for the State of Origin series.
Yeah,
20 years.
Very much so, yes. And this persisted up until the northern summer of 2005. On paper, it should have been more of the same. The Australian team that arrived in England was arguably the peak of its powers, a squad of living legends. But England, under the captaincy of Michael Vaughan, had assembled their own golden generation. The series that followed is now widely regarded as the greatest in the history of the sport. It was a 5-act Shakespearean drama of oscillating fortunes, unbearable tension, and individual heroics. Every match was a nail-biting epic decided by the slimmest of margins. In the end, fueled by the Botham-esque performance of their charismatic all-rounder, Andrew Freddie Flintoff, and Kevin Pietersen.
That's right.
England won the series 2-1. They had slain the gods. This is fucking ridiculous.
2-1?
They won their first Ashes. They won 2-1. Their first Ashes win in 16 years.
What do you mean 2-1? There were some draws, were there?
I think I rained out.
That's right.
Yeah. And so 16 years, they win the Ashes, right? Yep. They had a fucking open top double-decker bus parade through central London for winning the fucking Ashes. I just think it's so fucking ridiculous. Like, come on.
Against that colony.
Yeah. Like, they had a fucking parade.
How far you have fallen. You fucking embarrassing cunt.
But the English celebrations were short-lived. The Australian dynasty had one last roar left in it in the summer of 2006-2007 on home soil. Australia delivered a brutal 5-0 counterpunch.
Jesus.
It was the perfect farewell for the retiring gods of the golden era, Shane Warne and Glenn McGrath. They went out on a tidal wave of English wickets, reasserting the new natural order that felt, for a moment, like it might last forever. But this was an illusion. With the legends gone, a power vacuum opened, and an ascendant England built their own empire. They won the Ashes back in 2009, and then again in 2010-11.
What year was that, sorry?
2010-11.
Okay.
For a generation of Australian fans, this was a national trauma. Yeah, I was living in England at the time. Like, as you know, the English will tell you, especially like before that like they're not interested in cricket. As soon as England won that fucking Ashes, it's like every, like, you're going into a club, every bouncer you show your ID to, how about them Ashes? Like ridiculous. It was the worst period to be living in fucking England as an Australian. But the funny thing about that tour is that they were in Australia. So our Australia was in a rebuild. So, you know, I think we'd fallen down to like 5th in the world rankings from first for, you know, the entire 90s and half the 2000s.
When we had Warnie.
Yeah, down to 5th. And Mitchell Johnson was our star bowler. And he was like, he had this like weird action where like he was super fast, but he wasn't very, like sometimes he was accurate, but sometimes he wasn't. And he was just really struggling to like find his feet. And he got taunted in the streets by English fans during that 2010-11 series. And he got dropped from the team. And he went on like a whole soul-searching thing. He linked up with Dennis Lilly, you know, a fast bowler from the 70s. And Lilly, I guess, provided him advice or just sort of like held his hand through finding his form back. You know, I wasn't there. I don't know what Lilly said to Johnson. But I'll tell you what he did to come back for the 2013-14 Ashes in England is he grew a fucking Australian fast bowler handlebar mustache. And he found his fucking mojo again.
There we go.
And this came out of nowhere. The pendulum swung back with a violence to it that in the summer of 2013-14, Australian fast bowler Mitchell Johnson, who'd been mocked and broken by the English crowds in the 2011 tour, he was reborn as a force of nature. He was bowling with a combination of raw pace and fury not seen since the days of Lilly and Thompson. He single-handedly tore the English team to shreds, physically intimidating them and psychologically disintegrating their batting lineup.
Yeah. That's a very serious moustache.
Knocks him over with pace, real pace, right through the England captain. What a start for the Aussies. That's an absolute beauty. That hinted like it was coming in to Alistair Cook and then went away off the seam. What a delivery, what a start. England 1 for 9. He won the pad. close. Was there an inside edge? There's going to be some overthrows regardless. The Australians aren't convinced. They think there's no edge there.
Now let's get the line. Oh, that looks good. Is it outside the... It's good. That's good enough to overturn the original decision.
And an edge. Haddon's got him. Matt Pryor's going to have to go. Mitchell Johnson's on fire.
So this is like the days of Lillian Thompson. In comes Mitchell Johnson now. Oh, how about it? How about it? It's barely believable. The Adelaide Oval's gone off.
They've gone mad here, as you'd expect. 3 wickets in the over to Mitchell Johnson. Stokes LBW. Pryor gone, caught behind, and now first ball, Stuart Broad, a long way across, and that's what pace has done to England.
And taken! Wonderful catching from the Australian captain. Mitch Johnson's got 5, and he has made an awful mess of this English top order.
There he is. He's on the honoured board here at Adelaide Oval, and it's been all about fire. It's fast bowling at its best.
Gone! Smashed the middle stump out of the ground. Mitch Johnson on fire.
Don't check the front foot. Everything's precise. It's a great cherry. Another one. Another one from Johnson. Anderson, look at this stare. Chop that. No words. There's a stare for you, buddy. Bowls him. Straight away, Johnson is able to carve out another wicket and close the innings down for England. It'll be 7 for, and he's on his way to another man of the match performance.
Oh, Johnson took 37 wickets over the 5 fucking games.
Jeez.
He literally ended the careers of pretty much half of England's players after that series. Like he fucking decimated. This is probably the most hostile series by a bowler in the modern era of cricket. And I'm going to put
he just charges in, doesn't he? I remember
oh
this.
yeah, it's fucking so good to watch when he came back with that fucking mustache. So Johnson tore the English team to shreds. It was another 5-0 whitewash. Following that, England won at home 2015. Then Australia won again at home in 2017-18. The rival became like a predictable exchange of home ground thumpings.
Okay.
But then, later in 2018, the Sandpaper Gate scandal in South Africa saw the Australian captain, Steve Smith, and his deputy, Dave Warner, banned for a year in disgrace.
Okay.
The Australian team was no longer just a sporting entity. They became international pariahs, the villains of the cricketing world. So they arrived in England in 2019 as a team on a desperate quest for redemption. Smith and Warner, their bans conveniently imposed by Cricket Australia to end just prior to the Ashes, they walked out into a cauldron of pure, unadulterated English hatred. The mission was no longer about just retaining the Ashes. It was about reclaiming the nation's soul with their disgraced former captain.
I guess we're not going to dwell on the whole sandpaper thing. We're just that's just a thing that happened, and we'll just
it wasn't the Ashes, so
yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. It is not part of this story. Well, I mean, except for the context for this. So the 2019 Ashes in England was set up to be a public execution. The Australian team arrived as pariahs. The 2 best batsmen, bans just served. They walked out, booed with a venom usually reserved for war criminals. So Steve Smith, when he did his press conference after the whole Sandpaper Gate thing, he was like in tears.
Mm-hmm.
So like half the crowd was wearing masks of Steve Smith's face, crying.
Okay. Was he the guy who had the sandpaper?
No, he was just the captain.
Who had the sandpaper?
He just went down with the ship. Bancroft.
Because the captain told him to, though.
Dave Warner told him to.
Oh. Okay.
They were like taunting him about his wife. It was like they were getting super personal. Like it was like they were way crossing the line.
And who's Warner? He's a bowler?
Dave Warner's batter. He was our opener. He was the vice captain.
Okay.
There was like these rumors that his wife had like slept with, is it Sonny Bill Williams? Is that his name?
Oh, okay. That's ringing a little bell. Yeah.
So they were like, the South African crowd were like all dressed as like Sonny Bill, and they were like fucking taunting Warner the whole time. He got into like a fist fight with, maybe it was like Quentin de Kock, one of the South African players, in the change rooms.
Okay.
Like they were just like they were just dirty on him. They were just getting really fucking personal, really out of line with what should be said on the field. And I was not surprised. Well, I mean, I was surprised, but you know, I was like, well, fucking.
Was it one bowler who used a bit of sandpaper, or was there more?
The bowlers didn't even know what was happening. It was like Warner and Bancroft had like come up with this plan.
How? Who are they? What are they? Are they out in the field when they throw the ball around? They just do it.
Yeah, after the ball, when the ball was getting passed around the field,
is one of them a keeper?
Bancroft would give it a bit of a rough up on one side before throwing it back, which would just, I mean, you know, it's not going to give you a giant advantage, but it just would mean that the ball is a bit rougher and a bit more likely to swing because one side is uneven from the other side.
Gotcha.
But Smith, Smith came back stronger than he was. The best batsman in the world when he got banned. He came back better. He was a man possessed. It's like Bradman-esque series. He only played 7 innings, and he made 774 runs. So like, he would have probably beat Bradman's record if had have done the full 10 innings. It was the Steve Smith show. A one-man act of defiance, and by the end of the series, the boos had turned to applaud. Like
he won him over.
Yeah, he completely won him over by the end. The series ended in a 2-2 draw. But for Australia, this was a monumental victory. This meant that they retained the Ashes on English soil for the first time in 18 years. They didn't get a parade, but it's beside the point. The heist pulled off by the disgraced God King who had returned to reclaim his throne. After the Roar, and I mean, we'll just skip over Ben Stokes. Honestly, probably one of the best innings I've ever seen to draw the match at Headingley. Or maybe they won, or even win the match at Headingley.
What year are we here?
2019.
2019.
We'll just gloss over that, because this is very much a biased Australian perspective, and Ben Stokes is a Kiwi. He shouldn't even be the captain. Let's just make this point. The English team is captained and coached by Kiwis.
Okay.
But anyway, after this raw emotional tension of 2019, the 21-22 series in Australia was a return to business as usual.
Here we go. The Ashes starts now.
Oh, bowled in, first ball! The end swinger from Stark, immediate breakthrough. The roar grows up. Australia can't believe the start they've got away to, and it's all happening at the Gabba.
Well, there you go. We're going to win the toss. They bat first. Let's have a nice little session where we settle in. Mitchell Stark gets the big in-swinger going. First ball, Rory Burns falling across the crease. Leg stump rattled. Couldn't be any better for the Aussies.
The redemption arc was complete, and now it was time to reassert dominance. Australia demolished to demoralised England 4-0. And the series was defined... Well, it was defined by the ruthless efficiency of the Australian team, but most notably the fairy tale emergence of a new hero. In one of their great historical rhymes, an Indigenous man from Western Victoria, Scott Boland, who on his home ground at the MCG produced one of the most devastating spells in Ashes history to seal the series. A beautiful, poignant echo of that first forgotten Aboriginal tour of 1868.
Brings the MCG to its feet. 3 for 22.
Boland again. Look at that cordon behind him. Hold him! Boland's on fire at the G in England. They are crashing down. Beats him again. And he's given him. Boland continuing on from last night's heroics. You'd expect. Edge taken. Boland. Unbelievable. Knocks over the England skipper. Scotty Boland is living out his dreams at the MCG.
Away from a fifer here at the G.
To Mark Wood, who's a fighter. Straight back down the ground. Scotty Boland has taken 5. The man could do no wrong in front of his home crowd. 3.1 overs. 5 for 5. And taken. Boland's got 6 at the G. Build the man a statue. What is happening here, Howie?
And beautiful.
Build the man a
Beautiful.
statue.
Beautiful.
All right. And so this set the stage for the most recent clash, the 2023 Tour of England, which became a fascinating ideological war. England's kind of rebranded themselves under this. They call it Bazball.
Yeah,
Basically, like
what's that?
play like you're in a T20 game in a Test match.
Okay.
It has never worked for them against Australia.
What does that mean? Hit it hard, right?
Yeah, like
go,
just like
go for lots of runs.
just try and like smack it every single ball. But I've never seen it work against Australia. But this is what they do. This is their philosophy. And the series became a gripping contest between Australia's methodical professionalism and England's chaotic insurgency. After the second test, and in the second test at Lord's, the spiritual home of English cricket, the rivalry found its explosive flashpoint. England's Johnny Bairstow. Oh, well, I won't bother explaining it. We'll just watch it.
I think I know what you're talking about here. England's Johnny Bairstow is at bat.
Flog.
Batting. When he's
Yeah.
not batting, he's keeping, correct?
No.
He's not a keeper?
No, he's the keeper. Yeah, he's a batsman. He's the keeper.
Okay, but when he's not batting, he's a keeper.
I thought you meant like in this clip, he's batting.
No. When he's not batting, he's keeping.
This was the headline of the entire series. This was the flashpoint of the last Ashes series.
Here's a reminder of the incident that continues to dominate the build-up to Headingley. Johnny Bairstow walked out of his crease, believing the over to have been completed, only for Alex Carey to throw the ball at the stumps.
The conjecture was just whether the over had been called, but the umpire made it clear that he didn't say over.
Both umpires out in the middle didn't see what had actually happened with Carey knocking the stumps over. It shouldn't be the third umpire working out whether it's over or not. It's those two officiating out in the middle.
For me, I was asking the umpires if they had called over. The square leg umpire and the standing umpires made the movements towards it being over.
It was then up to the Australians to decide whether they want to continue with it.
He threw it straight away, mate. Exact same thing.
I thought it was totally fair play. That's how the rule is. I know some people might disagree or what.
If the shoe was on the other foot, I would probably just have to have a little think around the sort of whole spirit of the game and things like that. So, look, it's happened, it's out.
Lord's crowd furious, but the law's upheld.
It is out, but I thought Australia could have called Bairstow back out that instance.
That brought Broad to the crease, who immediately made clear his unhappiness at Bairstow's dismissal.
That's all you're ever going to be remembered for, that? That's all you'll ever be remembered for.
Yeah. He said yes.
Would you say life's so unfair?
Bring us out.
New evidence has emerged of the abuse dished out to the Australian team entering the long run.
I think Ben's innings, I think that's the way to respond, isn't it? Is put it into
so
your
Bairstow thought the over was over, directly after the ball and just walked off. This was not the first time he did it that innings. It was something that he did after like every over. And Cummins has just turned to Carey and just gone, fucking throw it at the stumps.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is this where we have a conversation about this?
I mean, sure. I mean, the aftermath was ridiculous.
Look, how do we do it? Okay, to be clear, he signaled with his foot, right? He did his little foot on the crease thing, which means I'm not going anywhere. We're not playing. That's it, right? He did that.
Did he?
Yes, he did. It wasn't pronounced, but it was. He did. Yes, he definitely did. He did a little with his foot on the crease. This is the pivotal fact.
Did he?
Yes.
I'm gonna have a look at this.
The umpire didn't acknowledge it and didn't call the ball dead, so it was still.
I mean,
live.
he looked at his foot.
You're not seeing a little chunk chunk. It's not much of a chunk chunk, but it's a chunk chunk.
It's in slow motion. It's almost. It could almost be argued to be a chunk chunk, but that is just a fucking. That is a look at his foot and a step in normal speed.
But it's clear that his intent is not to try and get up the pitch to try and score a run. He's not going for any advantage. As far as he's concerned,
it's like completely it's completely what is like it's there's no illusions as to whether he obviously thought the over was done. It just hadn't been called yet.
Yeah, exactly. So look, I'm not sure if this is going to cost me much among our Australian fan base, but that is not. I don't think that's how I want our national team to be winning cricket matches. I think that's rules, Laurie. Think about this. Do you like Bluey? You know Bluey? You like Bluey?
Love Bluey. It's the only show I watch.
You like Rusty, obviously.
Yeah,
the cricket episode. Yeah, okay. So if Rusty was out there that day, do you think that Rusty would have taken the wicket? Or do you think that
Rusty would have taken the wicket?
No, he wouldn't. And I think that is the character that we should aspire to.
Well, the point that I wanted to make is that W.H. Grace, the pinnacle of the English embodiment of the spirit of cricket, did that in the first ever Ashes Test match.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, did what? What did he do?
Did exactly what Carey did to Barstow. It was exactly the same situation.
Okay, yeah. So that's why I asked that. Here we go. So that's the throwback. That's why I asked at the time. Did he signal with his foot to that he was not trying to take any advantage? So anyway, so look, I'm on the side of the English with that one. I don't think that's a good wicket. I think it's fine. They're within their rights to do it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a frisbee player. In ultimate frisbee, we don't have referees. It's purely a matter of spirit. It's a matter of the players working it out amongst themselves. And so the idea of this rules lawyering. It's rules lawyering. They're not playing cricket. They're playing. Oh no, the umpire didn't put his hand up. So
it's gamesmanship.
Yeah.
So I explained at the start.
I don't know. I like to think we're better than that as a nation, as a side. Maybe we're not.
Same old Aussies. They're always cheating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't call it cheating.
That became the theme of the Ashes, the fucking crowd singing that fucking song.
It's not cheating. It's obviously not cheating.
It's obviously not cheating. The umpire gave it out.
But, I don't know. I've seen them, because I've seen some of them talking about it afterwards, and they were saying the English players were asking us like the replay was up on the when they're having lunch or something, like the replay was up on the screen, and the English players looking at him going, "Are you happy with that? You happy with that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I am." I'm like, "Well, I'm not convinced you should be. I don't think that is how you do.
Well, the aftermath was ridiculous. Like, because in Lords, you have to walk through the members section to get to the, and they were like hurling abuse. Like, this is like the gentleman. Like, this is like the fucking aristocrats that are like members of fucking lords.
Yes.
Just
Well,
like
you don't want to upset the aristocrats. Bad things.
hurling abuse at the Aussie team as they walk past him. I'm pretty sure
Exactly.
Kawaja had a confrontation with some guy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fucking intense.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. So what you're with the Aussies on this one?
I mean, I'm neither here nor there. I'd probably rather they didn't do it, but having learnt that WG Grace literally did the same thing in the first ever Test match, therefore setting the precedent, I now do not give a fuck.
Best I go and wondering. He just like wanders down.
I just laugh because it's like he just walks straight out of his crease.
Right. I imagine the finger's going up here.
Nah, it was a fair game.
It's out every day of the week. I just thought it was out. That is out every day of the week.
I thought it was, blatantly out.
My sense is this is going to be given out. We're on the screen, it's given out. Yeah. It's a
Funny thing was, Johnny was trying to get me out like stumped the same way against the spinner, like the first game at Edgbaston. I was like trying to against the spinner, I almost lost my footing, and Johnny just waited there for like 5-6 seconds, and I was like, got my footing again. So I'm like, keepers are sneaky, they know what's going on.
The funny thing is, Bairstow's done that to a lot of batters as a keeper, so it wasn't like it was out of the blue, and he was caught unaware. He's done it to a lot of batters, so.
I mean, there's not much to say about it. A lot has been said about it. I think the unfortunate thing for us, as it happened to be the last ball of the over.
Because strategically, Johnny is a drifter. He drifts up the pitch at the end of it to pat something down. They'd identified it as a weakness, and Alex Carey cashed in on it.
Go back 150 years.
Yeah, and I think it's funny that it's like the what was his name? Sammy Jones, the player that was like stumped out, said, "We learned a lesson that day, and I don't think we shall ever forget it."
Yeah.
Series ended in a 2-2 draw, which meant that Australia retained the Ashes.
Because they won the last one?
Because it was a draw because it got rained out, so it was like a very big anticlimax. But
so we
that
didn't
means
get a result. We didn't win it.
It was a draw. 2-2. It was a 2-2 draw, and the last, I guess one of the games was rained out.
Yeah. Well, one of the games was a draw. But so Australia retains the Ashes, so it's not really but it's not a win though, is it?
It's not a win, but we've retained it the last 2 series in England, and then we've won the last 2 series in Australia.
Yeah, okay. So it's kind of like tennis where you got hold and break, right? So they haven't broken us. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's also, that's a precedent the English set when they refused to acknowledge that the first win in Australia was a legitimate win because they hadn't beaten them on English soil.
No, we're holding on to it.
Yes, no, it was a fluke. What they call us? Corn stalks? You corn stalks. And so that brings us through to this year. Starts
21st of November.
21st of November.
All right.
Our captain, Cummins, has been ruled out of the first test.
Why?
He's got a back injury.
Oh.
He's not able to play, which is a big blow. And you can imagine the excitement in the English locker room when that news came out.
Sure. Is he a batter or a bowler?
Well, he's our captain. He's our main bowler.
He's a bowler.
But that joy that the English must have had when they learnt that news was probably crushed pretty quickly with the realization that it's in fact Scott Boland that's going to be replacing Cummins. He's finally going to get a starting game in a test series.
Let's go, Scotty.
And hopefully a repeat of his last over against England in Australia.
Hell yeah.
And that's that.
Okay.
That is 150 years of English and Australia
cricket
duking it out.
And so this is why our relationship with the motherland has remained. Is that's your argument?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, my argument is that it prevented a conflict, but that stopped, when we broke off from England
in 1901.
In 1942.
Oh, 1940. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
It is just interesting the correlations with, well, like one, the dominance of Australia following the First World War. So we're kind of like, we were like, all right, we'd never like clean sweep them in a series before. But then we had like bona fide resentment against the English for like actual betrayal, and we took it out on the cricket field. And then a decade or so later, when there was actual bona fide resentment from the English for defaulting on loans, they happened to come out swinging on the cricket pitch.
Yeah, I mean, you are touching on a very serious topic here, which is the psychology of sports and how that plays into the human experience, let alone the geopolitics of the international human experience. And yeah, it's quite fascinating, really, isn't it? You got to think, like, what happens if this is removed? Without cricket, what happens? And we probably wouldn't have the Union Jack in the corner of our flag. Is that
no?
What you reckon? No,
I'm firmly of the opinion that we would not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, whilst it doesn't, it kind of stops serving that probably more pressing purpose pre-World War II. It definitely does serve as like a very quintessentially English, propaganda outlet. That biannual reminder of this sort of like special thing that we have. But that's like sort of, I guess, words they would use. But them throwing us a bone.
Yeah. Also, I mean, that raises the question. You go back, you think about like these butterfly wings or these closing doors moments, and you think about those first commercial series. Who was it? Who was that first commercial sponsor of the English team that came around Australia?
The catering company. I forget what they were called.
Yeah, catering company. Like, think about, like, if that doesn't happen, then maybe cricket doesn't get that foothold in the Australian public consciousness. Maybe things just move on, and then cricket doesn't become a thing.
I think it was more the Aboriginal tour of England that kind of was the. Because I feel like that.
If the catering company didn't do their thing, then wouldn't the Aboriginal tour have happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because the Aboriginal tour happened separate from that, because they were out in the country. They weren't seeing any tour games. They weren't getting the. They were just like.
But it would have been
former
a thing
Englishman.
that captured the public imagination, though, wouldn't it? In some way.
Well, the public didn't know about the tour because it was
what
banned.
was it doing then?
They weren't allowed to go. Well, these guys wanted to play. And the people who were managing the team wanted to make the money. They had their own ties to England, so they took them over. But I think it's when they went over there and they did so well. I think that's probably more important to that, because I don't know, just like there's not a lot really written on it or reflecting on that. But
yeah. But you see what I mean, though, about how like these little things just get their little hooks in, and then that allows them to get through to the next year. And then, you know what I mean? And then that then has these massive knock-on consequences.
If the demon Spofford didn't exist, then none of this would have happened.
Yeah. And you could say the same about Bradman and Border and.
Warren.
Even what's his name? Johnson.
Yeah, Mitchell Johnson.
Well, no, it would have existed around him by that point, I suppose. But yeah.
Yeah, I think like like Shane Warne, like when he died, that was like the death of a sportsman has never like affected me. That was like I was depressed for a long time after that. That was that was heavy.
Yeah. He was a good one.
He was a good one.
Yeah.
I fucking love him. Can literally just no one can get away with shit like Shane Warne. Like he's like he can't like that guy was literally untouchable. He could do anything. And people just be like, fucking Warney, who cares?
Yeah.
You know?
You want to make a hair loss commercial, mate? It's fine. It's fine.
Fucking spend a year banned from playing cricket for taking fucking some fucking random diet pills or something.
Warney, mate, what the fuck's your problem?
Exactly.
It's fine.
Just serve your fucking ban, get back in the team. We'll never mention it again.
Well? Who was that ridiculously the hot British chick that he married?
Yeah, it was like Liz Hurley.
Liz Hurley, that's the one. Yeah.
Fucking married to her. Wasn't he?
Yes, Shane.
Yeah.
Yes, Shane. It's so nice that we have that, you know. I think we, as a nation, get to collectively claim Liz Hurley.
Yeah.
Shane Warne.
It's through the shared love of Shane Warne.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, fuck. How interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, there's so much to unpack there about, and I guess that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Psychology of sports and national identities and international relations, obviously.
I feel like I think like cricket was a big part of the British Empire, of like the glue of the British Empire. You know, it was like
Why? What about it do you think? If it was a different game, would it be different? Baseball wouldn't work, right? Soccer didn't work.
Well, it's such an aristocratic game, you know, because
the
you have to not have a
around?
job to play cricket. You know what I mean?
So it's because of the standing around and the talking and the watching.
Yeah, it's the like
unique
something
about
to do
that,
for
isn't it?
5 days because you own a bunch of land and cunts just give you money. You know?
It is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why. Like it's just it was so it's.
Was
I
it
feel like
always 5 days though, or was it?
Well, I think it was at one point. It was just open ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think it was. You know, it's this very, very characteristically British way of controlling your subjects on the far reaches of the planet, of just really instilling this like, you know, master underclass dynamic by beating them at a sport rather than just beating them. You know what I mean?
Beating them at a sport where they can't physically hurt you either.
Yeah.
And
it's such like a psychological game where it's like, you know, they're really, you know, they're imparting that psychological imprint without physically just beating someone for the sake of saying that they've got authority over them. You know what I mean? Just it was just like their dominance of this sport they've invented, that they've exported, is just the way of reminding people of who's in charge, which is what, you know, make the Ashes such a thing.
Yeah, it's got that wonderful colonialist dynamic, doesn't it? Yeah, it always will. So are we going to win this series?
I'm fairly confident, but like, also like, I don't know, like fucking England are already talking shit. Like, oh, this is like the weakest Australian team of the last 16 years.
Is it?
No. We're like the number one team in the world, or like maybe number two.
All right.
We have been for a long time.
And we're in Australia. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So like, but
All right.
you know, I don't know. England's apparently good, but they say that every time and they get annihilated. Like, I don't know.
Well,
this is the thing. It's like so much of it is a psychological thing. Even all the fucking lead up to the game starting, anything in the media, it's all like, it's all just like, yeah, just say whatever. You know?
Yeah.
Like some random English player or like former English player that's like recently retired, one that has played a lot of Ashes series, will come out a month or two before and just like talk shit about how bad the Australian team is and just like try and get that fucking psychological one up on them. It's just like the same thing every time.
Yeah.
There's no shame in the fucking English team. Like, it's just like they say it confidently every time. They get fucking annihilated, and then like 4 years later, they're just like, yeah, it's definitely the worst team now. It's like,
well, it's still gonna beat you.
Yeah, that's what you said in '93.
Yeah.
I do find it incredibly funny though. They had a parade. They had a parade for fucking winning the Ashes for the first time, and fucking, it's like we beat them, and it's like, oh well, it doesn't count unless you beat us again next time.
Yeah.
Whereas they win one fucking series in 16 years, and they have a fucking parade.
I never thought about that, but you're right. It is a little bit pathetic, isn't it? Oh, the poor
and you might like the other point to make with like cricket is, you know, a lot of people that know English people would have heard many times that English people don't care about cricket. A lot of English people don't care about cricket, and that's because it's the upper class that is into cricket.
Oh, okay.
It's still that way, and like Northerners, but like for some reason, with the place with the worst cricket weather, somehow likes it the most. But like, yeah, this is very much like an upper class thing still in England. Like most of the team is like private school educated, unless they're like imports from other countries that they've like quickly arranged an English passport for, which is the case for a bunch of them.
What's the point of being the British Empire if you can't do that?
Yeah, exactly. They just take like oh God, I've forgotten his name now. But there's like a guy. What's his fucking name? He's really good. It's on the tip of my tongue. No, he's from the West Indies. Yeah, he's from the West Indies, but they're like before that 2019 season, they just like fast tracked him a passport.
Right.
So, he had like some claim to it. So yep, done. Yeah, Ben Stokes, their captain, he's a Kiwi. Brendan McCullum, their coach, is a Kiwi. He's not even an English citizen. He's just like a former Kiwi cricketer who's now coaching England. But
I can see here these stats. Overall, tests in Australia. Well, overall the test, there's been 345 tests played. England's won 110 tests, and Australia's won 142.
Oh,
we've drawn 93.
Sounds way more uneven when you put it like that. But what about series versus series?
Series is shockingly close. Do you want to have a guess? There's been 73.
I think it's like 32 to 37 or something.
32 to 34.
32 to 34, yeah.
32 to 34.
Sounds way closer when you put it that way. But Australia's still
draws.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, but not by much. Fuck.
No.
Oh, we need to pull away a little bit. I know they break it down here by what we've won in what depending on the location.
Who's won?
Right.
Okay, so what about away? Who's won more away tours?
Ashes, the series or tests?
Series.
Series. So Australia's won 20 in Australia. England's won 14 in Australia. Australia's won 14 in England, and England's won 18 in England.
Okay.
So fuck, that's very mirrored.
Yeah.
So the 2 game difference is because of,
2 series difference. Yeah.
2 series difference.
Not far away, you know. Like England could win this one, and then in 2 years win the next one, and be level.
Well, thank you for that rundown of the Ashes. That was
that's all right. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I'll see if we can get this edited down to maybe we can shave 40 minutes or so off at least.
Sure.
See how we go.
All right. Nice
all
one.
right. Till next time.
Cheers, mate.
Talk of a political dirt unit.
Is typical of